Just once in a decade, in a lifetime maybe, the world of entertainment is disrupted and utterly elated by something entirely new.
Good Lord.
And now for something completely different.
Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Just When You Thought There Were Enough Gorilla Cricket Podcasts podcast. It's podcast number 3, would you believe? And people have been clamouring to join us on this incredibly popular show. None other than the Bear has joined us from upstairs in his attic. He's just had his chimney removed, and that's not a euphemism. And what I would say is that it's FOMO, isn't it? It's FOMO. Everyone's afraid of missing out and not realising that actually not that many people listen to this either. Anyway, never mind. Today we're going to talk about great gorilla fuck-ups of our time. Well, I think we are anyway. And I have alongside me, or arranged around me,
I thought you wanted this to be a short programme.
The grubby one is here.
Hello.
And the one known as Not Fred is also alongside me. So who wants to kick us off? Who wants to kick us off with a ridiculous story about not turning on equipment? Grubby?
Well, I suggested that we talk about this before I knew the Bear was going to be joining us. He's sick to his ursine teeth of hearing this one, but I'll tell it again. We did a little thing at the Muslim Aid a couple of years back. It was you and I had, sat in a press conference, didn't we?
We did.
The Bear was there recording everything that happened. I asked a cheeky question of Waka Yunis. I said, which batsman in your career did you most enjoy crushing their toes? And he said Graham Hick. And then you had quite a lengthy conversation with Brian Lara, didn't you?
Well, I think it ended up being one question. So I suppose if you want to call that lengthy, I suppose you could.
In my mind's eye, it was lengthy. I took a photo that you still use as your profile picture, which
Well, I
we
thought
all
I should.
cherish.
I thought I should.
And then we got the opportunity. We were shunted by some lackey into a little room with Waka Yunis, and I had Bear was there on the camera, and you were standing nearby, Hendo, watching on eternally.
I was.
A good old chat with Waka. He's a really good bloke. Brian Lara less so. Waka was a really good bloke. And we were chatting away. He was just a bit surly, I thought, Lara.
He was a bit surly.
Yeah.
It was a bit surly.
Just a little, yeah.
We were reminiscing about his Warwickshire days, and I gave him a message from Dougie Brown about his car or something. We were all getting on famously, and he seemed to quite like us, which is
Unusual.
And so I thought we only got 2 minutes with him before we were ushered away to the next room. And just as we were being ushered away by this self-same lackey, the Bear said, "Fuck! I forgot to press record."
Oh,
and
how many? Oh.
And you and I looked at each other, Hendo, didn't we? He said, "Oh yeah, good one, Bear, good one." And he went, "No, I'm serious. We thought, yeah, really good one." And it turned out he was telling.
I was absolutely mortified. It was a really good interview as well. I was so mortified.
It was a good interview. That's what makes it more hilarious in a way, because we'd have had golden content to show to our listeners stroke viewers, and yet we never did.
We failed.
It was the great interview that never was. Well, you failed.
Yeah.
So what about you, Fred? Any particular cock-ups that you remember?
No failures on my part. No, sorry, move on. Next one.
Well, I thought you were going to say that. I was going to say I couldn't think of any particular failures that I'd done, apart from perhaps falling asleep occasionally. I mean,
Occasionally.
I'm prepared to be I'm prepared to be reminded of some if anything stands out in your mind.
No. What comes to my mind is Hendo screaming at me every time I've made a mistake at something that he thinks is important.
Well, there is about that. Yeah, that's because
the amount of
let me finish. This is because the Bear swears that technology is the answer to everything, and in fact, it turns out rarely to be the answer to anything.
It's the answer to everything. It just doesn't work all the time. You have to be a bit sanguine about that. But you sit there screaming at fucking everything.
Yeah. Well, I did scream when I thought we'd lost Deep Das Gupta's interview as well. I mean,
yeah,
that was another.
You put the phone down on me.
Well, it's just because I didn't think your ear could take any more. I was just too frustrated.
I know. I can think. One of these that comes up to my mind actually. I think it was the first morning of the test in Ireland.
Ooh.
And but the fuck up only occurred later.
It only became apparent later, is what you
It
mean?
only became apparent later because at the point we wanted to do something, and we needed the intro or the first bit of the first test, the first actual day's play in Ireland. And I went back to the archive and realised I'd missed the first 20 minutes.
Oh, that's right.
Fucking recording.
We've only got it. We've only got it on Facebook, haven't we?
Well, we only had it on Facebook. Fortunately, you can download the Facebook video and But it only occurred. I was thinking it must have been about a month later or 2 months later. We were doing something, and in fact, it reminded me of it the other day when we were getting clips for that Dan thing. And one of the things that I was going to clip out was the first ball of the Ireland Test. And I went back to the archive. Yeah, no, I did, because we had it in a separate file.
It was a good ball as well, because lots happened.
Exactly.
Well,
that was it.
I should explain to listeners before you go on, and that Dan thing that the Bear is referring to is Calling the Shots, which is a podcast that Dan Norcroft is doing with Adam Collins on Wisdom, I think it is. You'll find it on the Wisdom pages somewhere. And he's doing one, well, the latest one, which I don't know when it's going to be out, but fairly soon, is all about alternative commentary.
What does he know about it?
Well, exactly. I did make
become mainstream now, huh?
Yeah. Well, the thing was, actually, I funnily enough, I realised as soon as they'd finished with me, and it took them about 2 hours, of which they'll probably use about 23 seconds. The next man on was Jared Kimber. So it'll be interesting to see how much of the guerrilla side of the story actually remains. We shall keep you updated on that one.
And of course, it should be said that we are longer surviving than any of the other bloody outfits out there.
Well, exactly. In fact, I don't think you can actually say that any of the other outfits have survived. They haven't survived at all. No, exactly. I mean, they might occasionally pop up. They're more like pop-up services, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, occasionally White Line will arrive and do something. But I think, it takes people like us to have the staying power, doesn't it?
Exactly.
We're big, strong people.
I think we should rechristen this podcast. Needless to say, I had the last laugh.
Well, in that case, I will tell a story of a general fuck-up, which I was not on the receiving end of, but I had to deal with at short notice. The World Cup in Australia and New Zealand went on forever, as World Cups tend to do. And they were through the night. We had difficulties getting people out, and people would fall asleep at all strange hours, and nobody could ever be found to do things. And there was one game, I don't remember who was playing, but for some reason, the mid-innings break, instead of being about 40 minutes, was only about 15 minutes. And I was having a kip on the studio sofa, and I wasn't actually sleeping. But I suddenly saw, hang about, they're coming out. And there was nobody else around, absolutely nobody else around. And there must have been somebody in the producer's room to put us back on air. But it was just me sitting there by myself. And for the first maybe over or so, I was doing the ball-by-ball commentary and the jingles and reading the tweets. Not that there were very many of those. Because everyone had disappeared. Like Gary was asleep on the floor in the other room, and nobody else could get past. That was probably the story.
Well, yeah.
And it was a typical guerrilla through the night experience when, for all the best will in the world of Hendo's rotors, it didn't quite work according to plan.
You were Guerrilla Cricket's very own answer to Rick Wakeman for a short time with those various keyboards.
Yeah. There must have been somebody else in the studio. Maybe we had a producer. Do you remember those days when we had producers?
Yeah, well, that was another thing that occurred to me when I was going back over that archive footage. They were pretty poor, actually. If they're listening, sorry, you've probably got better in your lives now, but the crap they used to cut out made no sense whatsoever. And a lot of the files in the early archives were arranged as all their little cuts throughout the day, and it didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Are you talking about the sofa days, really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No. I'm talking about when we had Jamie and all those. Remember when I got all those students in the first year?
Oh, yeah.
The first series we did, I put an advert out on some student network for producer types, wannabe producers. And we had about fucking 13 of them at one point. They swiftly got down to about 3 or 4 of which.
Well, the one I remember most, I'm trying to remember what his name was. The guy used to come up from the West Country, and we'd find him sort of slumped in the doorway of the back of the studio at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And
I can't remember his name. Yeah,
I can't remember.
Stew or something.
Was it Stu? I don't know. It might have been. Talking of great fuck ups, we should. Was it a really great fuck up? I don't remember too much about it, except that it was worrying at the time. Was when we were trying to get Sam Northeast into the studio, and somehow we locked ourselves in. I don't know if anyone remembers about that. And so the great interview with Sam Northeast that was carried out by by both Tony and me. We needed two of us to do it for some reason. I can't remember why. But it took us about 20 minutes to get him in the house, and we were bashing away at the lock. I can't remember who it was who finally.
I think Rog kicked it in.
I think it
Rog
might have been
kicked the
someone
door in.
kicked the door in.
Or
Yeah.
Fred
Basically,
Janaway, wasn't it?
I think
Yeah,
it was.
could be.
All I remember of that is being away at some cricket. That was in the World Cup, wasn't it? I was at some ground and getting furious WhatsApps going. We've locked Sam North East out, and we're locked in.
Yes.
Like, well, how the fuck did you manage that, boys?
I think we just texted you with North East out, and you're going, I don't want to know about county cricket at this time. But he was standing outside, and the top circular bit of the lock mechanism had just frozen. Basically, you couldn't tell it. And then eventually, Fred Janaway, he sort of emerged back up the stairs. I'd gone back to the kitchen, thought it's not worth it, it's not happening. And he just emerged back in the kitchen going, yeah, I sorted it out. I said, oh, what did you do? Just gave it a whack. So he gave it a whack. But what an introduction for lovely Sam Northeast to Guerrilla Towers at Sydenham.
Well, I was going to say that.
I wonder if he's thought doing a podcast with Marcus North.
Why?
North by Northeast.
He should do a biographical one about Marcus North.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh no, he could write the book. Yeah, he could write the biography of Marcus North. North by Northeast.
Then it works.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was probably Sam Northeast's low point before he was left out of the 93-man squad that England have named for this summer.
No, I think it's still his low point. Yeah.
Well, one thing I remember from that day when eventually we got him into the building, and I was on air with him when he was first on air, and I was just chatting away about his inclusion in the Lions squad and all that sort of stuff. And I said, presumably you're in touch with the England management, even though you're not in the sort of playing squad at the moment. And he's like, no, none of that. And I just couldn't believe that there would be zero communication between the England management and the wider group of players that you'd think they're keeping their eye on. I found that utterly astounding.
It's extraordinary because he was selected for the England Lions, wasn't he? The tour that they went on to Australia at the beginning of, was it this year? It must have been this year. The one that Crawley went and joined after South Africa. And it seems odd to me. I think they literally just forgot about him. I think that they were naming 55 people. And when you're naming that number of people, it's so easy for one to get lost, isn't it? In the sort of
doing those Sporkle quizzes.
Yeah, I hope he's not going to take that because, it's ridiculous that he wouldn't be in that squad of 55 people, isn't it?
It is to me.
Well, we would say that because he's a friend of guerrilla cricket. Gladstone Small should be in there as well. Neil Foulds and various other people. Oh, here's a story of it's not a fuck up, but Rog got one over on me. We were getting Neil Foulds, the former snooker player, professional snooker player, in to do a day's commentary with us. He came in, he did very well actually. He quite enjoyed it. He likes talking. He's a professional snooker commentator.
Very good.
And Rog said, "Here's an idea. Why don't we dress up like snooker players, so that when he comes in, it'll make him feel at home."
You feel at home.
And Rog said, I've got the tails, I've got the suit and the white tie and everything because Rog, as people will know, is a classical musician. He has to wear that stuff. I said, I'll dig out a dinner jacket, turn up the next day, and Rog wasn't wearing his dinner jacket. It was just me in the dinner jacket. And then he took a picture of it and put it up on the Guerrilla, or somebody took a picture, put it on the Guerrilla Twitter feed and said, Neil Foulds is in the house, a picture of me in my dinner suit. And good old Dr. Dan Diper, quick on the draw as always, did a portrait of me saying, Neil Foulds in the Guerrilla Cricket studio. I thought that was quite fun.
So there you were. You were done in
I was
canvas.
immortalised. I was immortalised by the Dan.
You were mortified and immortalised in the same stroke of the pen. Darren Gough. Now, Darren Gough, something happened with Darren Gough, and I'm not sure what it was. Grubby, you seem to know more about this story.
Do I?
Isn't it you? Who knows about Darren Gough?
Oh, sorry.
You did something to Darren Gough, yeah.
Yes,
you did something to Darren Gough.
Not so much a story as a memory.
Oh.
It's basically the tale of how I single-handedly turned around the fortunes of English cricket. It was the England tour of Sri Lanka in 2001. And so you'll remember that under Nasser Hussain's stewardship, we'd risen from the depths of, those really dark days of 99, bottom of the rankings and all that sort of stuff. And we're making a half-decent fist of it and some decent performances there. And we'd lost the first test match in Gaul to Sri Lanka, as we usually do. And my friends and I went over for the second game in Kandy. Stinking hot, stinking humid. We were luckily in a shaded area of the ground. And Goffey, who'd been trying his heart out at quite a crucial moment in this game, where it was more or less parity, about 200 plays 200 in the game, one of those exciting ones, and he bowled really well, a bit luckless, and he trotted down to just in front of us, down to long leg, and I shouted really loudly, "Come on, Goffey, head up, son!" And he turned around and tried to pick me out in the crowd. Of course, I hid behind a woman or something, and as if to say, "How dare you suggest I'm not trying my bloody hardest to try my balls off?" Anyway, the next over, buoyed and fired up by my cruel words, he went and took 2 wickets in the next over, turned the match, turned the series, went on to win the decider in Colombo, and then 4 years later, we're beating the Australians in an Ashes for the first time in almost.
Well, I've always
It
said
comes down to you, Grubby. You are our hero.
You were big.
And 18 years later, we won the World Cup. So well done, Grubby. Yeah.
Yeah, but so you think some of these things take time. Motivational speaking isn't always immediate, and I think you've done a great job there, Grubby. You just knew exactly the right words to get him, didn't you? I think you sat down and you thought about it quite deeply, and then you gave it to him all barrels firing, and then hid behind your wife.
Well, I wasn't with my wife at the time.
Oh, right.
I found another woman to hide behind. No, I mean, Nasser Hussain wrote about it later in his book about the difference between managing Goff and managing Caddick. And Goffey, you could really fire him up and give him that sort of rocket and he'd respond to it, whereas Caddick needed treating with kid gloves and arm around the shoulder and all that stuff. And he probably got that from me as well.
Well, you have to be quite tall to get an arm around Andy Caddick's shoulders.
It's very true.
You probably have to stand on a stool or something to do that. I mean, it takes a lot of preparation.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Say to Andy Caddick, could you kneel down? I want to put my arm around you. Didn't go over very well.
Now, I should tell you that as we've invited the bear here for the first time today, you would expect nothing more than he would be vaping and drinking beer throughout the entire show. So
absolutely, with my shades on, watching the sunset out my window.
Tremendous shades.
Absolutely, tremendous shades. Do you not think that he looks really like he's in charge of a Mexican cartel?
That's my shot identity.
Oh, sorry. Oh, damn, we've given it away.
Sunny Man.
Who?
Jackie and Sunny Man.
Jackie and Sunny Man. Who are they?
Spy catcher. Doesn't matter.
No, okay. All right, moving on. Now, we should tell people that we are going to do the West Indies series, shouldn't we? We should give them that great news that people perhaps won't be aware of, that we won't actually be going into the studio all together. We will be at various desks looking at computers or looking at Sky TV, and we're going to do it on Zoom. But it'll be funneled from Zoom to YouTube and to Facebook. That'll be brilliant. It's going to be brilliant.
That'll be the magic of the bear then, yeah?
That'll be the magic of the bear. The bear's going to be stuck in the studio on his own for days in fact. I think probably 15 days out of 15 days out of probably 20.
Are they all back to back, by the way?
Pretty much so, Bear. Yeah, it's going to be hard work. You remember last year when you went around with all those superstars driving 500 miles a day between games?
Yeah,
it's going to be a bit like that when you have to come 2 miles down the road from Crofton Park.
It is indeed. I'll get knackered to do some days.
Yeah,
I'm hoping some people come in the studio. I'm hoping things will chill out by then. Although actually, looking at the shopping disaster yesterday on Oxford Street, and maybe not. No,
it's not looking good. Although I saw something tonight about some steroid that has some effect. Although they said only 1 in 25 people. Which, okay, every life is great to save, but it's not really a world-beating steroid if it's only saving 1 out of 25 people, isn't it?
It was significant.
That's a bit too serious for this podcast. I think you're on the wrong one, Hendo.
Okay. Yeah. Oh no! Damn it! Bring back. Well, what I wanted to say.
Now we will read the names of all the people who have died from COVID-19.
Listen. Now, I could. You've reminded me since we've been on air or recording this of another fuck up.
Good.
Do you remember? Good. That's what we want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want me to tell you the story or remind you of when I got Guerrilla Cricket thrown off Twitter?
Oh yes, do tell us about that.
Yeah. I think I was involved as well, wasn't
I? Well, you might have been there, but you weren't directly.
No, I was the recipient. I think I was the recipient of the email.
Oh well, I was in the tweet seat, and Mog had tweeted in. I think we had someone relatively new in, and Mog's favourite game whenever we got someone new in is to try and get him to say the C word. And so he tweeted in with something like, "Ask that C to do whatever," and I just wrote back. I didn't say this on air, but I wrote. Which of you C's called this C a C? So I used the C words. Am I allowed to say cunt on this air? I can't remember.
Yeah, I presume so. I don't know.
So anyway, I wrote that, and immediately, bang! This big flashing light came up. from Twitter going, your account has been suspended for vulgar
24
language.
hours.
No, I don't think it was 24. I think it was 12 hours.
12
yeah, 12
hours.
hours.
12
12 hours. Which meant that we
And
couldn't reply to anyone for
we
12
couldn't
hours.
reply to anyone, which, for a short time was a blessed relief.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I mean, we get really fed up with all these people trying to communicate with us. It's
That was
really
another,
annoying.
that was
isn't
another
it?
thing I heard via WhatsApp. People going, shit, we've been locked out. This is all during the World Cup, wasn't it? I was racing around the country. All I remember about that is every morning I get on, and my fear was that you'd be in the studio, Hendo, panicking.
I was pretty much every morning.
So I had TeamViewer, and it was a blessing. But basically every day I'd have to get the World Cup feed on at 10:45 or whatever. And as soon as I got them on, I knew they were stable. I'd go back to my computer and have to log into all the computers back at Gorilla Cricket and put you lot on air, change all the website, do all that, because otherwise it was all going to fall apart.
Well, you know, actually, this is the thing. This actually has some connection to what you just said. I was trying to clear out my phone of pictures the other day because I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but if anyone
the
sends
police coming round.
very good. Do you have this problem where if people send you a WhatsApp thing on WhatsApp, it just goes into
your photos.
So I was trying to get rid of all these photos because my it was almost up to 32 gigabytes or whatever, and I just kept getting pictures of the bear with another world-class international cricket. The bear with another world-class international cricket.
Well, you know.
You were a pathetic fanboy. A pathetic fanboy.
Well, I thought my opportunity had arrived. You know, how often do you get to do this? And then the thing was, I started off not doing it, right? But then every fucker there, you know, all these people are experienced journalists. You know, it's like I was in a box with these guys, and I was like, oh, God, I could try and ask a photo, but I felt a bit sort of, you know, I'm in a box. It's a memory, fine. But everyone kept coming in and going, can you get me to get a photo with da-da-da? And I thought, oh, well, I better start doing it as well then. So I started
hang on, all the journalists were asking for photos with
some of them would, I mean, like fucking Collins and people like that would ask, oh, can we get a photo with this person or something?
Really?
Like
I find that a bit
disgraceful.
sort of,
I know, it was a bit weird, but that's why I started doing it. Even the producers on my show.
Well, everyone else is doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, you know,
yeah.
well,
What are you, a sheep,
well, the
eh?
funny thing is that people were doing it essentially for their fucking Twitter feeds and social.
I
Because I
know.
can't be arsed with it. I was kind of like, So then I thought, well, actually, I am, you know, I'm supposed to be Gorilla Cricket and I'm actually here. And so maybe I should put these photos out on fucking Twitter.
For the good of Gorilla.
well, I don't.
For the good of
for the
Gorilla,
good-
exactly.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I'm
we
a socialist at heart, man.
Well,
you
actually,
know.
the thing is, I refuse to do a selfie until it's someone asking me for a selfie with them. That's I'm just going to stick to that. And
Yeah, but
probably won't
it
happen.
wouldn't come
You'll
out
be
for
waiting
some
all your
reason.
life, mate.
They have
No,
to
it
get
wouldn't
to
come
press
out.
the button. Yeah.
That's very true. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
let's
You've had a similar cock up, not related to Gorilla Cricket. Who were you interviewing in the West Indies?
Oh
Hendo?
yeah, terrible cock up. Well, it wasn't a cock up from me in one sense. It
Wow.
would have been a terrible day for the person who it affected. As I was covering Bermuda v Jamaica in the Red Stripe Cup in God knows what was that 1999, and I was sitting next to this guy from I think one of the Trinidad papers or something like that, and he had done a full long recorded interview with Jimmy Adams, who was there. Can't remember whether Jimmy was playing at that point or not, really. But anyway, unfortunately for him, he had exactly the same type of miniature tape recorder as I had, and I accidentally picked up his recorder, took it back to the hotel. Well, it was a hotel. It was someone's house I was staying in, and I listened to my own recordings, and then I thought, oh God, hang on. I've got a second recorder, and I put it on and I played it, and there's this massive long interview with Jimmy Adams, and I thought, oh my God, that bloke's probably lost his job. He's probably relying on that Jimmy Adams interview, and he's wondered where it's gone. I mean, I suppose I should have listened to it and actually done it as my own.
I was going to say,
I did.
didn't you just nick someone else's interview?
Wasn't
Should have
David
done.
Brooke, was it? It's the sort of thing that David Brooke would do. A, interview Jimmy Adams, and B, lose it.
I do
Who
wonder
was it that you interviewed, Hendo, and the wind kept getting in the way?
that was Kenny Benjamin in the West Indies in 2013. Yeah, just before before Sofa finished and the Gorilla started. Yeah, I went to interview. In fact, we had a fantastic £500 recording device. It was a really, really good quality one. And I went to I'd gone out on a freebie with the cricketer, funnily enough, and tried to interview Kenny Benjamin at the Viv Richards Stadium. And unfortunately, what happened was when I went back to the other journalists who were on the trip, nothing had come out. Bugger. So I went back to Kenny Benjamin, did the same interview again. But unfortunately, if anyone's been to the Viv Richards Stadium in Antigua, they will know that there's a lot of open areas. It's not a sort of enclosed stadium, and the wind rips through there like nothing on earth. And when I got back to England and tried to play it, and we tried to put it on the show, it was completely useless because all you could hear was this wind and occasionally Kenny Benjamin sort of saying something over the top of the wind, and it was
Need a fluffer, Hendo, when you're.
oh yeah, it was a complete disaster. So yeah, I'm no stranger to cock-ups in that respect. So
My major regrets in life have involved
You-
the absence of a fluffer.
Well, Hendo,
Well,
Hendo needs a fluffer for his cock up. So
well, it's very, very comfortable that way. I have to say, though, I was really disappointed because Kenny Benjamin was a lovely bloke and very interesting. And unfortunately, all the only stories I could do about him are ones that I just remembered in my head. So it was.
Okay.
Who's
of a
got
shame.
anything horrible to say about any famous cricketer they've met? Bear, come on, you must have something. Who was the least good person you met? You're going to say everyone was lovely, but someone must have betrayed a small chink of light that said, "No, I'm actually."
Well, no, none of the ones
bastard.
I met, because they were all, it was all junkety and you didn't meet them enough. They didn't really talk to me anyway. Oh, well.
Oh, so now we hear that you didn't actually talk to them, Ben.
No, actually. Who's the bloody leggies?
Shane
Hogg, Brad Hogg.
Brad
Hogg.
Hogg. Brad Hogg. Crazy man.
Oh, so he was crazy.
Well, he was getting all unionist and all this kind of stuff. Basically, he'd been screwed over by a bunch of Indians. And he was losing it, and he was trying to sort of organise us all to do this. He was trying to get us to we're going to get the rights, and we're going to go around in a camper van.
Oh, that would have been fun. I think that would have been great.
Well, Clive Lloyd and Barry just kept looking at me. That ain't happening.
I tell you what, though.
No, you're driving us.
If you had Clive Lloyd in a camper van, there wouldn't be a lot of room for anyone else to sleep.
Well,
would there, to be honest?
exactly.
Yeah, so it'd be
You're opening the sunroof.
Well, yeah, you've got to stand up all the time, Clive. Sir Clive, you'd be saying. Anyway, talking about the West Indies, because time is getting on, and it's nearly time for the Salisbury poisoning. So, just to date when this is being made. Do you know what
I
happened?
hear they have a very nice steeple in Salisbury.
Yes, they do have a very nice steeple.
How many feet is it?
291?
Yeah.
291 feet.
I go and visit it often from London.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
on a day trip.
I wouldn't be surprised in your other job as the head of Mossad. I quite expect that to happen. But what about the West Indies series? I'm getting more excited. I'm getting to that point. You know how if you've been on a really long journey and it's just getting to say the last half an hour or the last 40 minutes, and it's the last 40 minutes that seems to be the longest. Because you're beginning to get that anticipation. I'm beginning to get a bit of that about the West Indies, and it's still 3 weeks away, but I'm ready for it now. What can I do? What can I do about that? Anyone got any advice?
Go to sleep for 3 weeks. That'll
could
do
do
the
that.
trick.
Well, you do that quite well.
Well, I
anyway.
do like that. Yeah.
You can at least sleep 2/3 of it, I'm sure.
Endo
try.
estivation.
What's going to happen? He's not going to sleep in anticipation, and then once the test match starts, he's going to zonk out for 5
Exactly.
days.
Well, this is my fear.
Well, I'll be sorry.
Endo is supposed to be on Zoom at fucking whatever, 10 to 11. I'm not out of bed yet. Get someone else to do it.
Listen, guys, I just have to get into a sort of a regular notion, so of going to bed and getting up at the same time, and I'll be able to do that. And anyway, cricket actually sort of enlivens one, generally speaking, I would say. Now, before we finish, I think what we should do really is talk about the Dick Weller Broad Trophy, because there were a couple of fantastic semi-finals at the weekend, absolutely wonderful, and I can't believe that no more than 10 of you watched it, because it was brilliant. I stuffed Al Hosh's beardy bastards with my fat lot of use 11, getting 200, I think it was 235 played 80, something like that. At one point, wickets just plummeted for poor old Al, who was in fact was standing in for Rog and did quite a good job. But then, if you thought that was exciting, and the fact that Dwayne Loverock took 8 for 34, how amazing was it on the Sunday? I mean, I got in from church. No, I don't go to church. I got in from wherever I was and put it on the telly. I put it on the telly because it makes it look really exciting then. And I think Grubby's Wevo Shaughnessy had made 230, 240? 239.
239, I think.
239. And as I watched, Tony's bespectacle 11 were 80 for 3. And I watched in stunned silence as Ben Stokes then took 4 successive wickets and had the amazing figures of 4 for none after 4 balls. So it was 86 for 7. They managed to sort of get as far as 132, I think it was, before the 9th wicket fell. And then, Grubby, take over the story.
Oh, do I have to?
Yes, you do.
Well, to cut.
You can't get rid of the you can't get rid of those last wickets, those stubborn last last wicket stands.
We're not good finishers. So for the second game running, so the last game in the group stages and this semi-final, managed to have the opposition 9 down, still requiring 100 runs, and lose the game. So
2 in a row.
2 in a row.
Fix.
It's
Yeah.
not
Well, you do
fucking
one-
fixed. These fat fingers, man, do not lie.
The fat fingers. The fat
No,
fingers.
the rest of you, your mouth.
Although it's got to be said, Hendo's the fucking worst winner in the fucking world, man.
Well,
I mean-
I'm worried about your fat fingers. I mean,
Oh, please.
there was some really dodgy stuff.
I mean, you were just
behind
fucking moaning because you were warbling on. It wasn't even the end of the over.
warbling on. Anyway, what I want to say is that it probably doesn't happen in many other forms of cricket, but we did have WG Grace bowling to WG Grace. We had IT Botham bowling to IT Botham.
Grace got
quite
great
exciting.
in the end.
Yes, indeed. But what was amazing, the performance of the weekend was surely Devon Malcolm, 87 not out of a last wicket stand of 112 undefeated. Extraordinary stuff, Grubby. What do you put it down to? What happened to your bowlers?
I didn't realise that this podcast was going to basically be torturing me.
Yeah, that was the whole point. Did
Oh,
you
was it?
did you not get the email? Didn't get the email.
That's subterfuge. Yeah, Devon Malcolm took us to the cleaners.
Yeah.
You know, my bowling attack of Shane Warne, Darren Goff, Doug Bollinger. Well, maybe. Yeah. What can I
Gutted.
say?
I was looking forward to taking you on in the final. I mean, I thought it was all.
I thought it was destined to be you two in the final.
I thought it was destiny. I mean, 2 of the finest teams in the competition. But
At some
now,
point, somebody is going to have to break it to Hendo that it is a game of dice,
as opposed to.
and there is no skill involved whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So
come on.
he's reaping the rewards for this.
Hang on. Surely the skill is in the toss, because if you win the toss and say decide to bat first, and you get 230, and then someone batting second only gets 100, then it was good call from you.
Well,
Wasn't
no, because then what happens is that someone gets like 2. I mean, the odds of it happening to Grubby were pretty slim, really. The amount of rolls to get 100 runs. I mean, there were 5 attempts? There were 5 house outs.
I don't think there was
three in
Not
the
this
first
time. I
one
think there was
against
one.
Tony.
There was one this
No,
time.
there was definitely 2, and there were 2 bloody no balls against in the last one that you lost to
Was there? No.
Tony. And when you
Never
lost to
mind.
Ginger Dreadman, I think there were 3 house outs.
I have
In fact,
been
there was
made aware.
there was a house out about when they were 3 runs short.
Oh, there
And
was?
yeah, it was against the Ginger Dreadman.
I have been,
So
I
you're
have been
fucking
made aware
unlucky, man.
of an
Hey?
alternative for some fantasy cricket game that involves more strategy and tactics, like as in less luck. So that might be worth looking into.
Yeah, I think we need to sort of reinvent.
You sank my wicketkeeper.
Sacked him.
You sank. We're playing battleships cricket or
Oh,
something.
you
Yeah, I was thinking more risk.
G5.
Oh, risk, yeah. Yeah.
No, I think we can. I think we can update it.
Kamchatka, Alaska,
Haircuts.
Dwayne Leverock. Yeah.
I think we can update it for the modern era. I think there's some faults in it, like too many stumpings. Although I was quite glad of the stumpings that I did get.
Well, it'd be quite easy. I mean, it's back in my sad old days when I was a kid. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and obviously you have many more sided dice in those games.
Oh, do you?
I mean, especially for outs and all that kind of stuff, you could certainly get a 12-sided dice or something like that, and have run outs on there and work out percentages better for the amount of faces, the amount of outs, etc., etc.
12-sided dice.
Or we
You get
could just not
20-sided
bother.
dice, or you could not.
Do we,
bother.
do we have titles?
We'll bear
for
it in
these
mind for the
episodes?
next pandemic.
I've got to say, actually, now that we've got it worked out and it actually works on Facebook, it's reasonably entertaining. And the fact that people, the actual making up of the commentary is very good. I mean, if you listen to it audio only,
Yeah, you wouldn't know you weren't watching.
Exactly.
Well,
You just hear a little tinkle in the just a little tinkle in the background that might give you.
You obviously
says
weren't.
Fred.
You weren't listening to my commentary, obviously, because it was absolutely.
That was all
shit,
right,
I have to say.
You
Click
were just
through the
like-
leg side, it's fine.
I just found it turgid. It was always a big appeal. Everyone said it's a big appeal. No, what about a small appeal? It was not a small appeal. The whole tournament.
A full
Well,
rounded
we'll see if we
appeal.
can we'll see if we can get some small appeals in before the end of the week then.
But it's quite entertaining, and it has been. I mean, it's only 100-run partnerships at the end. It could have been a fucking tie. We could have had a super over.
I think it's hilarious. I think it's a great shame that not more people are tuned in, because I think
Absolutely.
it's been a lot of fun, and I think it's something we could use in the future, as Fred says, when the next pandemic comes or when this
Yeah.
appears.
The data's still coming in though, Hendo. We've got all the
Data.
platforms. All the
Oh,
platforms. to
well, yeah,
consider.
well, Yeah, I mean, it would have helped if we'd have been accepted on Crick Tracker, wouldn't it? And various other places.
Well, we're waiting for the long distance votes to come in from the army and the Falkland Islands to get the final figures.
That'll probably take about. Well, I come by cable, won't it? Or will it become by horse?
That's on. They put it on a ship, I think.
Put it on a ship. Horse on a ship?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, fair enough. Why not? Absolutely, why not?
Yeah, and it's, of course, let's not forget, it's for charity.
Oh, it is for charity. It is for the
for charity.
Junior Diabetes
Juvenile.
Research Foundation.
Juvenile.
Diabetes Research Foundation. So if you if you want to, you can get on that. If you're listening to this, why haven't you been watching us on? I know it's difficult with the times. The times are all
You know
over.
what? I haven't put the. I've got archived the whole thing. We could play that patron only.
Ooh,
Yeah. And of course, patrons could look at the scorecards as well.
They
Lucky
can.
them.
That's true. One is actually that could work. That could work. Because I reckon it really all it needed was someone to watch it, like someone influential, like I don't know, Stephen Fry, and then tweet about it, and we'd have had millions of people. But it just never happened. Just never happened. But that's the way with Gorilla things.
I mean, some of the shit that you've seen's been made viral because of fucking pandemic, man. Jesus.
Well, I know.
We were unlucky.
We were. We just didn't have the zeitgeist or whatever.
What
I think there were 160 million new podcasts in the UK alone.
Really?
What?
Well,
160
it
million?
seems like it. Everybody's got podcasts.
Well, there's this one, for example, which is completely and totally unnecessary, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What you could do, Bear, you could put together a package, because I know you've got time in your hands and you're looking for stuff to do. You
Don't
could put together
anything more
you
on me.
could put together a package of all of the various fuck-ups we've mentioned in this podcast. And
sneak it into when we discuss.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the loss of the first 10 minutes of Ireland is
exactly the first 10 minutes of that package is silence.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Brilliant.
That'd be wonderful. Well, we enjoyed ourselves. Anyway, that unless anyone's got any other business, it's like an AGM. This. Anyone got any other business they want to discuss?
I refer you to item 6/4 on the agenda. No, I haven't got any other business.
Well, that actually makes it more interesting than the parish council meetings I went to, so that's quite good fun. So what I should say is, join us for the final and perhaps the third place playoff. We don't know whether that's going to take place now. Grubby, it looks just looking at your face now, it just looks as if you just haven't got it in you, a third place playoff.
No, fuck it, I'll do it. Don't worry.
Right, that's tomorrow night then, by the way. I'll just tell you that. And the final, I think, is going to be at 3:00 on Friday. What's the date? The
19th.
But keep an eye out on that on our website, because I'm not sure that Knuckle can make that time and day, so we might have to change it. But I should say from all of us for tonight, this is it for your third alternative podcast.
Join final.
Third in a series of two.
Yeah. Join us for the next one in, I don't know, however many days we decide to do it. Probably in about 2 weeks, maybe. And if you enjoyed it, of course, sign up to all the Patreon content and give us money.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Oh, so that was the innings of Brendan McCallum. Scores lots of fours because he don't like to run 'em. And here we are waving Brendan McCallum goodbye. Whoa, whoa.